operational.
This is Tiger, welcome to my stream. AJ, good evening, thank you for putting good evening in the chat. We are at Penzance in Cornwall, and you might have noticed Microphone test, microphone test, microphone test, microphone test. Microphone test, microphone test, microphone test, microphone test. Yeah. And and next time I will probably have this totally distorted sound again when I try to send something on Discord. Okay. When I try to send something on this. Okay, now Akkurat is übersteuert. Let's try to fix this in some way. Does that still work, or is it already übersteuert again? Let me record a quick test. Now I'm quiet. Now I am a bit louder. Perfect, that's fine. Okay, then I will leave it at that. Okay, I'm so sorry for that. Then maybe I can actually remove this here again and go back. Thanks for the patience. You're still hearing me? I don't know what it is. You might have read that I had to replace my graphics adapter, my GPU in my PC setup because mine stopped working, and apparently this switched a lot of stuff in my setup. But yeah, nothing that can't be fixed if you play around with like 103 different settings. Let's go through the chat once more now that you can actually hear me. AJ, thank you so much for a good evening and for your help with the settings. Spectre, it is so nice to have you back on the chat. And ASR to you, nice to have you here. I did not make it for an unboxing stream of the Class 163, but this will come. I already looked at it and it looks great. So SimRail will be back on this channel soon. CD Radar, there's a threesome to be some, but a four-way to bust your doorway. All right, you have some plans for tonight, as it seems. Theodoros, hi Tiger, and all, long time no see. So great to have you back on the stream. AJ can, yeah, AJ ASRT, Acura 94, moin to you. It's nice to have you back again, and now that you can actually hear me even more, nice to have your raccoon with angel wings in the chat. And what do you have now? So, AG, can you drop me a line? Am I still on with my voice? Yes, okay, great. So then we can actually go to the stream and play a bit and run some railways. My plan is actually to run a Class 802 Intercity Express Train, Great Western Railway, from Penzance in Cornwall via Plymouth, Exeter, London, Paddington, and then step over to King's Cross, step on Azuma, and go to the north until we get to Inverness. Oh, what GPU do I have now? A Radeon XT9070 XT, I think. RX 9070 XT. I think that is the correct name for it. I built it, I installed it myself. It took me half a day to make this happen, but it seems to work. And it should actually have improved the FPS rating a bit. We have to do it in free roam because obviously from Penzance we are in the wrong era, and so we have to make our way through all the old trains, the Mark II coaches. Nevertheless, we will try our luck. And you are driving the 163 as we speak. That is nice.
as I told you, I will be on this locomotive very soon, and hopefully on this channel. So, something did not go well here. I am not entirely sure what I did to my train while I was waiting here. Doesn't look that I can draw. Oh yeah, I'm drawing some power. Finally, I'm drawing some power. We're leaving here Penzance station at 15. And on the AT200 from the Riviera Line, we have this great speed clock with the automatic train protection. Great Western style. Thyristor is loud as brag as he says. We will get to this. And the 163. Yeah. Today it is about Japanese trains in the UK. A trains to be exact. And there are quite a lot, and we're getting one more next week for Train Sim World. And oh yeah, I have to turn on my markers. In the weeks to come, we're getting the 805 A train, the Evero. And to prepare that, I wanted to look at the 802 trains that we already have in the train, in the game, and see what we can do with them. Although I had to pay a reaction time completion to get a CD163, as within the second it spawned, someone already took it. Alright. It's good to finally chill after the hell of a weekend I've had here in Spain. ASRTU says, tell us about it. We had a lot of bad news from Spain, that is true. More train accidents and disasters than we go from Spain for the whole year. We are at 70 here. And going out of Penzance. And Viaduct Classic, I had to play single player to even try it. Give it a week or so and service will be empty again. Now everyone wants to snatch the new locomotive on the multiplayer servers. Bad way to start the year, definitely. And that is really, really hard luck. With a modern train derailing on modern tracks just the moment that a train is coming from the opposite direction. Those are the things that even the best safety systems don't provide any protection against. In my region there's only high-speed services, ASRTU. All regional commuter and conventional long and medium distance are all suspended until new order. 75 and then 90. The Cornish seaside. How long are we? 150 to 55 cars. In the short version of this train we have typically always two versions of this train, 5-car variants, 9-car variants. Aluminium coaches. With the aluminium cases typically produced in Japan and then shipped over and finalized in the UK, or in case of the 802s in Italy. Spectre says West Cornwall Local seems to be one of the most hated DLCs if I interpret the sentiment correctly. Yeah, and I don't really know why. It has its flaws, like many routes and DLCs have, but it's actually a nice DLC. Some people may think that it is a bit boring because you have so long stretches with only a couple of trees lining it. It's a Rivet production. Rivet is always prone to draw some hate. By the way, I set a path that will have a stop at Truro for the first time. Stations in between have platforms that are a bit shortish, so that we will not be able to get our train to a complete stop at the platform, most probably. We'll see how the signaling works. Here an orange Pacer from the Greater Manchester Transport Authority. So, getting the green here at the main when approaching. Another green. Let's see if we can rely on that. Sometimes the exit signal is at red even though we are getting greens all the way. So better prepare for that and slow down a little while we're passing St. Earth. Now finally trains in Simla feel alive with new suspension feature. I read about that, yes, or let's say, the signal is green. I read that they have a new suspension feature. So can we go 90 here already, or do we have to get to the point? We have still to pass 45 at Hayle before we get into faster speeds. Alright, and let's do that. West Cornwall local for me, it will always be connected with my tribute stream for Chili, my dog who deceased 1.5 years ago. So obviously I cannot hate this DLC. The 163 also has engine room, but it doesn't have anything interactive in it yet. Oh, I saw a picture of the engine room, but it is not interactive. That is sad. So, can go back to 60. Well, actually, we could have fitted here, just like that. Now, why would this train stop there? So we stop at Truro. Spectre says, remember that stream, she was a beautiful Malinois. She was a great and beautiful Malinois, you're so right. Is that you can actuate some valves, but they don't do anything. From what they said, it'll come at a later point. Interesting. So Dovetail Games are not the only ones who postpone some features, updates. By the way, did you relish the great update that we got for Train Sim World? Actually, a couple of signaling and safety system related things got fixed. On the Pfälzische Ludwigsbahn, the BU signal between Frankenstein and Hochspeyer is working now. Actually, it's flashing. Unfortunately, they left some extra yellow discs above the rails, but it is flashing now. Whether the Halbregelabstand is working now at the stations that they said they implemented it, I have not been able to confirm that yet. But maybe it does. There will be a 50 and then 60. And ASRTU says the only thing that has interactiveness is that if you enter the engine room while there's a red and not safe to enter light, it trips the whole loco. Alright. It's an interesting safety feature. No way suspected. They added the BU. Did they also turn off the lights in the tunnel? No. The tunnel is as bright as always. They did not fix that. In the original post, I think Harry made it. A lot of things that were fixed were listed under the wrong DLC header. Things that actually happened on Frankfurt Fulda were attributed to Frankfurt S-Bahn, and some things from Dresden were listed under Frankfurt S-Bahn as well, or Pfälzische Ludwigsbahn. And she was nice enough to fix it after I said so. Unfortunately, I did not make myself clear enough, and she took things that actually were in the correct DLC under the wrong header now. So my bad. And ASRTU says, yeah, I did see the new update. Cool to see lots of stuff got fixed. That is actually cool to see that something like that can happen. And you know, is this a realistic scenario with this modern train running on this old looking route? Sorry, I'm not that familiar with British rail scene. Well, no, obviously it's not realistic. I'm in the wrong era, but actually not much more happened. Some missing AWS magnets might have been installed, some TPWS safety looped, but the route as such is still the same, and those trains are running on this route now. We will get then to the Riviera Line and run from Plymouth to Exeter, and this is a train that actually starts at Penzance, and this is what I'm more or less simulating here with my free roam experiment. Spectres' only update I got was Birmingham Crew, I think, but that worked decently for me anyways. And CD Radar says Dresden. So what is happening where we are going? We are passing Camborne, and then we will increase to 70, drop to 40 for Redruth. Yeah, last time I went through Birmingham through. I saw that this one station, Rolfe Street, is now not longer such an FPS sink. Might have something to do with my update on the GPU, but even without that, I think they made it a bit smoother. And the idea why I started at Penzance is actually to show that you can go long ways on British rail tracks without ever stepping on a different train than a Hitachi A train. Class 800X or a Javelin. Or if you want, the ScotRail Express from Glasgow to Edinburgh and vice versa. Or is also an A train. Even only, if only an AT200 and not an AT300 like this one. But we will get to this in a small presentation that I prepared. Sticker album style. Another thing that we will have on this channel soon is we will look into an online Ebula tool that my friend Open-Minded collaborated with and well, helped the guy who produced it, and the guys were friendly enough to grant me access so that I can use it. It's a subscription model though, so not free to use, but we will check it out if it is worth it. From what I've seen, it looks nice. Working with the API that we have in Trains and World. Now slow down to 40 is announced. So obviously on German routes we will try this. Inspector says, oh, by the way, the Guarulhos airport trains are still not working. Guess how I found out? In an old rattling bus. Was it an atmospheric bus, maybe? Yeah, I figured that you might be in Brazil, Spectre. Well, the atmosphere inside was tense. Alright, ASRT, at least it's some trains and oh, 35 degrees outside. Alright. That sounds like fun. So, since I did not say so in the beginning of the video, as always, read my disclaimer. I got game keys and DLC keys for free from DTG for being an ambassador. This is why I have the disclaimer in the bottom of the screen. We are running on the West Cornwall local route, actually set in the 80s, so we are out of the era with our Japanese A train, the AT200 being around like 2019 or something. ASRTU, there's a lot of railway replacement buses. Some toll roads are tollless and low emission areas suspended. Yeah, well, and if you manage to find a train that works, you can ride it for free, he says. Well, railway replacement buses are really, really cumbersome. We will see. The Deutsche Bahn announced today that they will increase the punctuality from 50% to 60% this year, even though they have a big bag of construction sites planned. %50 punctuality, what delay? Well, you gotta start somewhere, I guess. And Austria will build atomic power plants. Well, I hope. They don't. Yeah, it's always a good thing if you find something like this and agree on in management. Well, this year we will improve our punctuality by 10% points. And then you tell this to the middle managers, and the middle managers will tell this to the low level managers, and those will tell it to the drivers and dispatchers. So, guys, you know, this year we have to improve our punctuality from 50 to 60%. You know what to do. And ASRTU says last month 49.9% punctuality on regional and commuter trains. 3-minute minimum delay. Alright. Well, I think the 50% was on long distance trains in Germany. This is one of those disused stations here. We have to slow down to 55 in this corner, in this bend. Yeah, I think in Germany we have the problem with the punctuality, especially on the long distance trains. Short distance trains are typically quite on time, unless there is a major congestion or so, then obviously everything breaks down. Did you notice, by the way, that those big yellow noses on the British trains vanished on trains that came into service at around 2020-ish? Until then, every train, old or new, more or less spotted this yellow nose. And the newer ones don't. I mean to say is RTO not anymore as high-speed line. Madrid-Barcelona has a 1.5 pages on temporary speed restrictions. It got added this week in Madrid-Barcelona alone, including a more than 100 kilometers reduction from 300 to 160. Well, that might. And Theodore says, time run a little bit slower in their corporate buildings, some more punctual by their standards. Yeah. Maybe they have to change the rules, how they actually establish whether the trains are on time or not. Maybe when things get to bed, they switch to UTC. Yeah. To increase punctuality, you have to switch the rule that every train that is not delayed for longer than 5 minutes is considered on time, by every train that is not delayed for more than 7 minutes is considered on time. And bang, all of a sudden, punctuality is increased. Idrea says, speaking about restriction to 160 is funny in country where they want trains to go at least 160. For longer than 1.5 hours, and every German train is on point. Yes! Every train that still arrives within the same day. Yeah, well, that's a difficult thing. I guess you will have a hard job by setting out to improve punctuality. We'll have to tackle all the underlying problems, all the technical faults that occur, all the staff problems that can occur, people sabotaging installations on the tracks, people on the tracks. This is every train that does not spat is on time. Kind of funny going to Penzance stations as AT200 as regional and commuter trains are cancelled on the departure boards and the rest is delayed. You should think they have enough room on the tracks now. Yeah, what do you think about my new GPU? It's a quite steady 60 FPS, even while streaming. I think this is definitely an improvement. We will see what happens if the weather gets worse, and if we need to calculate a lot of shadows, but funny thing actually is that the GPU stopped working, and then I thought, I need to replace it. And when I was in the process of replacing it and wiped the drivers completely, what I had done before but with a different program, then all of a sudden it started working again, the old one. I replaced it anyway. GPU is great, says CD Radar, but about the internet, so far And I don't want to jinx it. But so far it seems to work actually. And Akura says, I, as a former Nvidia fanboy, am impressed by the performance. This is nice. Okay. Good. Then we stop here. Didn't pay attention. We still have to go 16 yards, otherwise it won't see the objective as fulfilled. Then we do that. Alright. We completed our free roam objective here. People can board at Truro, and I will have to set a second part of the trip to St Austell. What would be here, right? Yes. And we got a path. Alright. We're still in the 30 limit here, I guess. And running out of Truro. But soon we will be in the 70. Going across this viaduct here. Jules, hey Mr. Tigerway, it's good to see you. Hope you are well. You are well, yes. So nice to see you on the chat. Well, now we are doing well here. I had some problems with the microphone in the beginning because I had to switch my GPU since the last stream. And apparently this distorted the settings for the microphone. But now we're here and everything is good. Running an A train, the 802 GWR IET from Penzance to Plymouth. Out of era, I know. But still. City Radar, oh, it looks like a locomotive caught fire in Poland today after colliding with a car. Oh my god, so many train accidents everywhere. On a level crossing, or how did the loco manage to collide with that car? And talking about the update, Train Sim World, they, on the Pfälzische Ludwigsbahn, they installed a level crossing signal at Rhein-Gönheim. What is cool, what is a level crossing signal that we did not have before, to my knowledge, not the one with the big yellow disc, but the one with the two small yellow discs, that shows a different variant of the BU1 aspect. Also a white light, but the white light is steady, non-flashing. So really cool, because we did not have this before. It's on a siding though, a super short industrial siding that is probably never used by any service unless you deliberately get there and put the loco on this siding. But it works. This is definitely a labor of love. And I have to say kudos. And this route seems too windy for a high-speed looking train. Yes, but I do think they drive this route with the 802s. Obviously on diesel power, because there's no electrification. And there is no... also today, currently, there is no electrification here. But it's not worse than on the Riviera Line, Plymouth to Newton Abbot. I think. Mystical, magical, the CD radar. As RTU says, yeah, you can actually see how this train is bumped around on those switches. In the Simrail update, they fixed Belchuf station, which is funny, as before that update, that station didn't exist, and now it's outside the map just before despawning. Alright. Inspector the cucumber. Wonder why it's called that. My cucumber. I actually really love this Great Western Railway green livery. I think this is a really beautiful color. Makes the train look like a cucumber a bit. But it looks classy, in my opinion. Hey Sati, what's even funnier is that GSMR Poland sign before that station that got added. So at least you can see the sign even if you get despawned before reaching the station. Theodore says, well, at least the convenient is that the passenger don't have to change trains. Yes. See the sign and then despawn. Cool. You switch your channel maybe? A radio check after switching channel. Despawn. You can go 65, I think, yeah? That's what the sign said. The rise of the BMU, yes. Bimodal, multiple unit. Well, a couple of them, we'll get to this in the presentation, are slightly trying to be on batteries. But electrification is one of the things, as it seems, in the United Kingdom, where people said at one point it would actually be a nice idea to have our railway lines electrified, and then somebody came along and said, yeah, that's a nice idea, but it is quite expensive, so maybe let's not do it. And so all those A trains are, well, most of them, especially the older ones, are built in a way that they run on diesel power sufficiently that they can switch to overhead catenary electrification, and that they actually would be transformed by, yeah, more or less taking away the diesel engine packs, and then you have an electrical multiple unit that remains. The US and UK are about the same on electrification mentally. Well, for the US I totally get it. It is just too much distance for at least most connections in the US to electrify them. What you see a lot on this route is those tree trunks, right? Those cut off trees next to the tracks. Oh yeah, my local route got new trains after some 30 years, and BMWs are in planning here too. Yeah, when they got those 800X class trains, they were more or less preparing for a time when all those diesel engines could be scrapped after electrification would be done. Would the US not be a great place for maglevs? Tell this to the guys from the Vector 2 project with their atmospheric train. Yeah, it would. But also that, what makes running trains so cost intensive is the distance, I guess. Regardless on what technology you run them on. It'd be if they didn't spend all the money on defense. Well, that is another discussion. The thing is, it makes sense to have a railway network that can actually support itself and is still providing fares that the general public can afford. Yeah. As RTU says correctly, money has to come from somewhere. Regardless whether you are a train running company, train operating company, or a company that produces and sells train simulator games. Money has to come from somewhere, and the bills must be paid. So, here this area where we did the switching at the start on Chili's funeral train. And if your ADIF money doesn't come to maintain railway lines, isn't it a problem with trains in the US, City Radar, that there is nothing but parking lots within 100 miles of the station? Also, that might be a problem, so that you actually need a commuter train to get from the platform to your car. And Adif is the national Spanish railway line owner. I see. So Adif is the Spanish equivalent to the DB Netz AG or the Network Rail in the UK. Infrago now, yeah. You're right. Formerly known as the DB Netz AG. They could use atmospheric trains expected to bring you the maglev. Oh, wait. Yeah, well, they had this great Vector 2 project with the atmospheric high-speed trains in the vineyard in California. Just needs to find someone who has the money to transform it into a real-life project. So, approaching St Austell on a yellow caution signal that cautions us already in quite a distance from the station. Theodorus, the solutions and technologies may already exist, some from long time ago, but politics are everyday business. Yeah. And Asartius says, "Welp, it stopped snowing. In Simrail or in Spain? Nowadays you never know. In Germany we are supposed to get a lot of snow again. I thought it was over with the frosty temperatures." In Simrail and in Poland, because they're the same. Ah, you're using this mod that connects, or that gives you real-time live weather. Or is this a feature in the game already? In Spain it snowed yesterday. Did it? Inspector says, "I wish it would snow, but more like rain and then frost, so that it all freezes to the ground." That is true. And in Simrail it's by default. Alright. That's good to know. I wasn't actually aware of that. Alright, St Austell peeps. CD Radar is going skiing next week. Yay! Along the Semmering. St Austell, did we manage to get the train to the platform completely? It actually looks good. Train's much shorter than I expected it to be. But I only took the 5-car variant. Wow, that would be awesome in the Semmering. I mean, Alps are definitely on my wish list sometimes for going skiing. Well, it's been a time that I was skiing in the Alps for the last time. Must have been more or less in the last millennium. Right? Alright. I have a little presentation for you about the A trains like the one that we just ran on from Penzance to St Austell, and that is going on to Plymouth while we are not looking, and then we are picking up from Plymouth. Inspector says, is it just me or have Austria's king prices skyrocketed over the last years? Maybe. And minus 100 points for not setting the DRA. You are correct. You are correct. And as Artio says, now there are double Pendolino formations in multiplayer as well. That is good. I should have set the DRA, that's true, because I stopped at the red signal. DRA handling is still a bit weak on my part. Let's get to the presentation. Why do we have Japanese trains in Great Britain? Well, Hitachi builds great trains, and A trains in Japan are always everywhere. Bullet trains, long distance trains, short distance trains, commuter trains, all kinds of varieties, and they also sell their trains to overseas. So we're not looking at the Japanese A trains, that would be a much longer story. But for overseas shipment, Hitachi classifies the trains into four categories. The AT100, what is high density urban trains, so for the really stopper trains that stop more than they go. A bit above that, the AT200 suburban commuter and regional trains, and in exchange the UK exported Pacers to Japan. Well, we will see that when we get the Tatami line, how much those trains look like Pacers. The AT300 trains, that is one that we just ran on, intercity high-speed and long-distance train, and the AT400 class will be the high-speed bullet trains. Yeah. I watched Bullet Train on Netflix during the week. And one of the things that the guys say is, if you mention Thomas the Tank Engine again, I will shoot you in your freaking face. That's... I hope this is not actually an omen for what is going to happen this year in Train Sim World. Yeah, bullet trains we don't have. Also, the AT100 trains we don't have in Great Britain. They got serious pretty fast. Yeah. And Tiger saying, freaking wasn't on my bingo card. Well, it was actually not that what they said, right? I already dumped it down with my language propriety filter. But in UK we have AT200 trains and we have AT300 trains of those varieties, and let's check it. I actually tried to make it a bit like in not in a bingo card, but in a sticker book, in a sticker album, where you can collect those pictures of the trains and see if you get all of them together, so that we know which of them we have in the game and which of them we don't. Let's stop the music, otherwise it will drive me crazy. The first A train, the first Hitachi A train, the first Japanese train in the UK was obviously our beloved Javelin, the BR Class 395 on the high-speed 1 line. Actually quite a difficult decision at the time, because those trains were more or less entirely produced in Japan and obviously not in Great Britain and not in Europe. They got a lot of European subsystems in it for the braking systems and other things, but it was all assembled in Japan, and the trains were shipped then as trains, as the product as it is, to the UK, where it was used. Javelin, because of the Summer Olympics that were supposed to happen in, I think, 2012, and so from that Olympic javelin, like throwing this javelin, this is where the name comes from. So 2007, if I give you those dates, then it is typically not necessary that the day when they entered service, more or less the start of the production or the order or something. Entering service is typically a couple of years later. Let's see how far you can throw a javelin. See, that's true. I will probably have to pump up my muscles in the arms a bit so that I can throw a javelin. And I asked you, does this enter in the exam? It does, always. Always interesting for me. Well, actually, I found a way to give you all the information in one little sticker, like here, what the train looks like, the British Rail class, and the name. And then you can see how many cars, how many vehicles there are in this train. Here, 6 for a Javelin set. Obviously, you can put 2 of them together, then you have a 12-car train to drive. And the number on the top right would be the number, how many units of them are there, have been built, have been ordered, have been put into service at any given time. Obviously, this is what you can find in the net, Wikipedia or other pages, so it does not necessarily need to be exact. And I am obviously also not in any position to go there and count them. But from the numbers, you should get an idea. So if they are not scrapped or destroyed in an accident. The lines here with the blue is actually designed to give you an impression in one glance what type of traction that we have. Javelin is an EMU, so no diesel power, and one that is bi voltage. It can take over at catenary. This is the darker blue line here, and it can also take electricity from a third rail, 750 volts compared to 25,000 volts from the overhead catenary. And this is what is indicated with the double blue lines at this point. Yeah. Later then, a couple of years later, it was easier to get Japanese A trains to Britain because by then Hitachi had a plant in the UK, somewhere in Durham, I think, where they assembled the A trains that they sold to the UK. So it was easier to sell it to the British public, that there was actually British jobs involved in assembling those trains, and the process typically was to produce those aluminum bodies for the vehicles in Japan, ship them over to the United Kingdom and assemble them in Durham, then for the UK. And the next set of A trains running around in Great Britain was the Class 800. 2 big train operating companies on the Great Western Railway. So this part, West Coast main line not so much, but the Great Western Railway covering this area from Cornwall, Penzance, Plymouth, Exeter, and then the Great Western Express, obviously, to London, Paddington, and for a lot of routes more. And on the other side, then the London North Eastern Railway, the LNER, that called their vehicles the Azuma. And you can see the 2 players with the A trains, the Great Western Railway and the London North Eastern Railway. I think first it was the idea was that Virgin Trains would buy those Azuma trains and run them on the East Coast main line, but then it was taken over by the London North Eastern Railway. City Rail is Azuma. And what is Azuma? It is the Japanese word for Zuma emote would be handy. Yes, CD radar, yes. Azuma, the Japanese word for, not the assumer. Azuma, says ISRTO, for east. That's actually at least what you can find. The Japanese word for east is Azuma, and this is what this train is called. It means train goes zoom. Yeah, on the Great Western Railway, they were a bit less poetic and called it the IET, the Intercity Express Train for the Great Western Railway. And that's disappointing that it is the Japanese word for east. Well, we have to live with that. Some things actually sound more poetical than they actually are if you understand what it means. It means see it. Say it sorted in Japanese, suspect that. Maybe this is the hidden meaning of it. At any rate, those early 800 class 800 trains are, as you can see, bi-modal trains. They can run on diesel power, and they can run with the pantograph on 25k volts from the overhead catenary. The idea was that if electrification is actually accomplished for most parts of the railway network in Great Britain, then we can actually scrap the diesel units and run those trains as EMUs, but so far it never happened, and they are still running as diesel units around on a big part of the track. You can see we don't have those trains in the game. This is why they are only in very, very light color, so that we can imagine that the train, it looks a bit like this, but we don't have it in the game yet. The class numbers 800/0, 800/1, 800/2, and 800/3 is more or less because we have the two players, the Great Western Railway and the LNER, and both have 5 and 9 car variants. That is the big difference. Obviously, the 9 car variants have more power packs, so more diesel engines. Typically, you would put the diesel engines not on the end vehicles where the driving cab is in, but on the 5 car units, you would have 3 powered cars in the middle and unpowered cars on the ends. So you will have 3 diesel engines. German-built engines, by the way, MTU. Maybach motoren, like the old DMUs in German, but obviously more sophisticated turbo diesel engines, but MTU engines nonetheless. And on the 9 car variants, you would have like 4 powered cars, with the middle car, I think, no, 2 cars. Cars 4 and 6 would be not powered. And then you have end car, 2 powered cars, 1 unpowered car, 2 powered cars. No, 1 powered car number 5. So that it gets symmetrical, right? So we'd have 5 diesel engines on the 9 car trains and 3 diesel engines on the 5 car trains. And so 2 variants, 5 and 9 cars, and 2 players make up for 4 different subclasses of this train. None of those are in the game yet. Those 800/3 units were actually supposed to be already EMUs, so only electrical trains, no diesel-powered trains anymore. But since electrification did not progress as assumed in the beginning, they had to fix their diesel engines to those trains too, and then they were classified as 800/3 trains. While in 2015 we got the first variant of the AT200 train on the Edinburgh-Glasgow line for the express. Those are those funny trains where they had those bent screens for the driver to look through, where they had all the problems with the double signal aspects that they can actually see because of the tilted or bent windscreen. And well, if you drive those trains, the 385 on the Glasgow Edinburgh Express line, then you know that it is far from being comfortable to run with this small window, and it is actually not so easy to see something. Also here, 2 different versions, 3 car version, 4 car version. This is why we have a stroke 0 and a stroke 1. Both of them are in the game on the ScotRail Express Edinburgh Glasgow route. Also an Rivet route, like many Scottish DLCs. That was not so much hated, unlike the West Cornwall local one. And then, obviously, the Azuma, as we know it from the Doncaster-Peterborough East Coast Main Line route, with the 801, stroke 1 and stroke 2. Again, the 2 different versions with 5 cars and 9 cars, and you can see those units are now more towards EMUs, electrical multiple units. Only a very small part is still red for the diesel traction, and that is that they have an emergency diesel power. You know that from when we played the East Coast main line with the Azuma trains. There is a way to get those trains off the track in case you don't have overhead catenary anymore, and this is actually accomplished in a very simple way. You just remove all the diesel power packs from those 800 trains and leave only one car with a diesel engine power pack. So instead of 3, respectively 5, you only leave one diesel power pack in the trains, and then you have them for your emergency use, and apart from that they are EMUs. And those two are in the train in the game, obviously, so that we can stick the sticker here. The 802 that we were just using here in the stroke 0 and the stroke 1 version, why they did not use the stroke 0 and stroke 1 here, but used the stroke 1 and stroke 2, not entirely sure. Well, this is how I read it, and I think this is correct. If it is not, just correct me as always. The 802 are more or less pimped versions of the Class 800 ones. Again, 5 and 9 car. The diesel engines are rated a bit higher for a higher power output. Later, the diesel engines on the 800s, at least on the Great Western Railway, were increased as well in their rating for the power output, but in the beginning they were lowered a bit, and here they started with a higher power output and with bigger fuel tanks, and that is actually the biggest difference between the Class 800 and the Class 802 for the Great Western Railway. London North Eastern at this point did not get the respective versions. They used the 800s that they had, and apart from that, the 801s on the tracks where they don't need so much diesel power. There are more versions of the 802 that are not yet in the train. The TransPennine Express, that we know also from an out-of-era DLC in the 70s. Spectre and me always agreeing that this is a route that definitely needs a facelift, a remaster. It's still one of the greatest routes in the game, in my opinion, but set in the 90s, obviously. And there, the train operating company TransPennine Express, that runs with this name, got 19 units of 5-car train sets that they run there as Nova 1 trains, 802/2. One of them actually has one of the diesel engines replaced by a battery pack, so they're doing tests how much they can use battery powered trains instead of diesel powered trains there. So that will be the Nova 1. Unfortunately, it's not in the game yet. Also not in the game is the 802/3 Paragon, named by Hull Trains, that operate from, what is it called, Kingston upon Hull, I think, on the northern part of the East Coast main line, running their own 802/3 trains there, and they named it after their station in Hull, Paragon Station. Yeah, pretty much the same trains, also bimodal diesel power, and can be, if you want it and if it happens at any point in time, be reconfigured into electrical multiple units. Inspector says a Hull Trains Paragon Loco DLC for East Coast Mainline would be nice. Definitely, that would be nice. So maybe actually we can put stickers on those empty places in our sticker album at some point in time. Can't be so difficult. More or less on the technical side, those trains are pretty much the same. Interior is sometimes a bit updated to current requests of customers, obviously. But more or less it is the same trains, bimodal trains, 5 and 9 car variants, with the 801 sets having all their diesel power packs removed but one for emergency use. In the 2020s, we got more classes, now without the stroke and subclasses, but using more freely the range of the numbers here. The train operating company Lumo, that is supposed to provide some lower priced fares on the East Coast main line, also operating there, is, I think it is a subsidiary of First Group also, that Lumo, and they have 5 trains with 5 cars that qualify as 803 trains, class 803, and you can see it from the line here. They are a full electrical multiple unit, so no diesel power pack there anymore. Makes it lighter, so you probably use less energy to power those trains, and only 5 units of them in the class 803 are around, with a very nice blue livery. So I would like to see them on the train. Can put them in your DLC as well, with the Hull, Paragon and the Lumo. Class 803 wouldn't be so bad, I think. What we are getting next week is the class 805, the Evero. Spectre, yeah. For Avanti West Coast, 5 car variants in the bimodal version, also diesel powered, electrical powered. We can switch over from one to the other. We will have services on the West Coast main line, London Euston to Milton Keynes, and from Birmingham to Crewe, where you can run those trains. Yeah, I already put the sticker inside, even though the release will happen next week. The interesting feature is that you can see that this is one of the trains that does not sport this yellow nose anymore, but only a very small yellow line on top of the windscreen. So, due to a change of regulations, it was no longer required to have a big yellow field on the front of your train, so that it can be easier seen by trackside workers or the driver on a train coming from the opposite direction, because the lights and LEDs on top of the trains are actually much more visible than they were in former times. And due to the change of regulations, it is now possible to get rid of the big yellow patches on the noses of the trains. Yay! So here we can actually put the sticker in. This is the newest edition, pending next week. Avanti West Coast actually has also a full EMU, only electric, powered by 25 kV on the pantograph version, and this is the 807 Evero with 7 cars. 7 cars is actually unusual. So far we only had 5 and 9 in the train set. Here we have a train set with 7 cars. We can easily do it for an electrical multiple unit, because we don't have to invest so much thoughts on how to distribute our diesel power packs along the train. So those exist as well. When I say they exist, actually they are not, or they have not been around for so long in real life. It was in 24, I think, when the first Everos entered service, and not all of the 13 that have been built are actually running around. And there is actually a very interesting story, is that the Everos replaced Voyagers, more or less. The Voyagers had a tilting technology, and with the tilting technology comes the TAS, speed supervision. Tilting technology is not really a thing anymore. The newer trains don't have the tilting technology, and so they thought that we don't need the TAS speed supervision anymore if we don't have a tilting technology. And so they ordered their trains without a speed supervision system, and they are running on TPWS and AWS and nothing more. They can also do ETCS, but most of the tracks are not prepared for ETCS. And then, a short time after the trains entered service, they got a notice from the Office for Rail and Road. What in Great Britain is more or less what the FRA in the US would do, or the Eisenbahnbundesamt in Germany would probably do. And they told them, oh, you are in violation with the legislation because your trains do not have a speed supervision system, and now you have to retrofit it. And yeah, Avanti West Code appealed this decision, and I have not heard that there had been an outcome of this appeal. So that would actually be annoying to have to retrofit those trains. When you get the 805 DLC, then you will see that in the cab of the Evero there is a big sticker reminding the driver that this train does not have a speed supervision system, so that the driver does not forget this and does not think, oh yeah, I'm running on TAS, the train will stop me if I'm too fast. So always interesting what can happen in modern times if you think everything is more or less agreed upon, and then you got situations where you buy your new trains, put them into service, and then the Office for Rail and Road tells you that you have to retrofit technology that will cost you the odd buck to do. A train that I would like to see in the game is the Class 810, the Aurora, for the East Midlands Railway. We don't have East Midlands Railway in the game, or do we have? No, not sure. At any rate, they bought also A trains, quite a bunch of them, 33, 5-car variants, again bimodal ones. They can do diesel and 25k electricity. And they will be a much more pimped version of the older bimodal Class 800X trains. They will have on the 5 vehicle train not 3 but 4 power packs. We'll have an unpowered middle car, and the cars between the ends and the middle car will have 2 power packs instead of 1. And they are slightly shorter than the other ones, with a not so long nose, with a more stubby nose, so that they can fit 2 sets of them. So a 10-car train into London and Pancras. And the platforms there obviously are limited to a certain length, so they had to shorten it a bit. So that will be train-wise a bit of a difference to the other versions that we don't have in the game yet, so that will be interesting. Actually, this train entered service, the first one, from what I've read, not longer than 5 weeks ago, in the early days of December 2025 was when the first 810 without an O in the middle did its first service. And yeah, that would be nice. The Aurora 810 in the game. You can also read that first group ordered more of Class 800X trains. What class they will actually be, the message does not say if it is a new class or if it's just more of the classes that we already have. We will see. All in all, we can see we have a lot of A trains in the UK, different versions, especially of the AT300 variety, but also the AT200 ones in Scotland. That's it for my presentation for today. I hope you like my sticker album style here to see how many of the trains that there are actually in the real life are already in the game, and it's quite a bunch of them we have already in the game in the different versions. And Spectre's idea of putting the Paragon and the the Lumo into and DLC for the East Coast mainline is not a bad one, I think. And maybe the Nova one for a remastered version of the Northern Transpennine. That was that. Even though we are already quite far in the time, let's do some train driving. What I won't do now is, I'm not entirely sure what I do. Do I do the Riviera one, or do I do the one from Edinburgh Waverley along the express line? Now I do the Riviera line. I always need an excuse to run the Riviera line. And this is what we set out to do, so stick with it. I also picked a service for the Riviera line. And you can see in the description or in the naming of the service, it starts at Penzance, just like we did. Riviera Line timetable. Which one was it? I don't know. Have to find out. Our service 1A92. Let's do it. In May with custom weather. Oh, light clouds, wind, not so much clouds, a little wetness, little, not so much fog, it's too much. Just a little bit and get started. That's the driver. Ooh, 25. May, 1 day to my birthday. Oh, so the 26th of May is your birthday. I will have to remember that. So in 4 months and 1 day, it's your birthday. Sound for the game. In Plymouth we start. Actually, we don't start because we already started at Penzance. In the part between St Austell and Plymouth we had to skip. Why did I lock the doors on the left again? I wanted to get up, not lock any doors. Yeah. Yeah.
AWS operational.
That is good to hear, lady. Totnes. Is that so? That we have to stop at Totnes? We will see. Obviously, I locked my doors. I did not want to do that. 2026 has been with us for whopping 25 days now, and Cap is so roomy that if it would be flat in Central London, you could not afford it. That is definitely true. Especially located so close to the station. is that on forward? I should be on neutral. Stumped around on my keys. More cucumbers. Alright. Don't forget the holding brake in Plymouth. Otherwise you always roll backwards towards Cornwall. See? Oh, what is wrong here? Something does not work as it is supposed to.
TPWS and AWS operational.
Why are my brakes not releasing? They are not releasing. You put neutral, did I? I did it, but now I put it in forward again. Are the doors still open? Well, then it won't work. I trolled myself with the doors, as it seems. Because it said unlock them, and then I press the same. This is the problem if you have the same button for unlocking and locking the doors. Yeah, now it looks a bit better. But still not. Let's do it again. Let's not fret around with this train. And this time I try not to stomp all over the keyboard with my fingers. Do it properly. On, neutral, open the doors. All the safety systems on. Sit down. Acknowledge.
TPWS and AWS operational.
Yes. The doors are open. Passengers had enough time to enter the train. Train is announced to the signaler. The GSMR works. The wipers I don't need. In 13 seconds before departure, I close the doors. So. And now we should actually be now I can release the brakes, put the reverse forward, draw some power. Now I can hear the power. And we can start the train without rolling backwards. We can't. Going to sleep now, so Theodorus. Keep up the good work. See you later. So nice to have you on the stream, Theodorus. And what is the problem now? What am I doing with my train here? Ah! Now I know. This is one of the trains where the holding brake actually sticks. It's not one of the trains where the holding brake is only active as long as you hit the button. No, you press it once and then it is on, and then you press it a second time and then it is off. Was that only 20 here? We're running out of it? No, we accelerated too fast. Okay, so the train is longer than I felt it to be. We have 10 cars. 9 cars. I thought I am on the 5-car version, but well, then we are on the 9-car version. And we have to wait a bit before we can accelerate. So what is the plan ahead? The plan ahead? Any more trains? For tonight? For the upcoming weeks? For... What time frame are you asking? Are you asking about my plans? Are you asking about DTG's plans? What am I going to do with my life, Tiger? That is a question. I meant tonight. No, tonight I will probably not go longer than this service here. I actually had the idea that we do West Cornwall, Penzance to St Austell, then here Plymouth to Exeter St Davids, and then later also an Azuma train from Edinburgh to the junction where you have to go to Inverness before you get to Glasgow. But as time is getting on, and it was a bit difficult to get the stream starting. I think this is the last service for tonight. And in the coming week, maybe I manage to do one more stream during the week, maybe in SimRail with the Class 163. Or when the 805 actually comes out, an unboxing stream then. Expected driving a cucumber on Great Western Express to Paddington and free roam would in theory be the continuation of this service, right? Yes, totally. That was actually the bigger idea. After arriving in Exeter here, we would jump to whatever Bristol and then running the cucumber into London on the Great Western Express. Then get to King's Cross, take the Azuma, and then do the bit on the East Coast main line. And then we could go to Edinburgh and do the bit on the Edinburgh-Glasgow route. Riding the cucumber into London. Well, it's a cucumber, isn't it? But since we are already almost at the 2 hours mark, and the presentation that I think will take about 5 to 10 minutes are always going into much bigger lengths. When I start reminiscing or whatever. So here's the limit to 60 coming up on the top of this incline. The old cucumber coming from the opposite direction. High-speed train. Our predecessors, so to say. And more viaducts. already close to the February roadmap again. Lonely Class 66. So we can see how far we are with all the many reveals that happened before Christmas. How far it is until we get the Great Western Express remaster. How long it is until we finally get Czech route. And what will really be interesting here is how this Ebula tool actually works out. So for that we will get some more German content. Maybe on the Pfälzische Ludwigsbahn, and we can have a look at the fixed BU signals. CD Radar, honestly, I find myself looking forward to your streams about Czech regulations more than the route itself. Oh, that is nice to hear. That will definitely take some time to understand this stuff, but I still have this document that you once gave me. I looked it through a bit. And, well, I will have to see the route, obviously, so that I know on which parts I have to focus. What signaling systems actually are used on this route. Safety system-wise, we don't have that much content on the route, as it seems. Any explanations of Japanese safety systems? Suspect, yeah. Here the same, right, for, well, in preparation for the Tadami line, I actually looked into the Japanese Wikipedia sites for the train protection systems, because the English and German versions are not really much detailed. So I dealt with the AI translations of the Japanese Wikipedia sites and the documents that they referenced. And we will see whether we can actually get an idea about the different ATC systems that they use in Japan. Oh, and soon there will be Portuguese content as well, yes. I've already seen some pictures in the big reveal. And then I have to go on with my short signaling course presentation for like 4 or 5 more short videos is already done. I have to find the time to actually record it, with the most difficult part being getting all the information in 3 minutes and not talking longer than 3 minutes. Always difficult for me. And we were worried about the contents of CD Radar. Yeah, true. Yeah, now that my graphics adapter works again, I can set out and do all this stuff. ASRTO CP route has like the brother sister of the Renfe S450. Okay. Alright. So the CP route is the Portuguese route, I think. We stop at Totnes, yeah. I have to prepare to stop at Totnes. And if we stop at Totnes, then we have to slow down whatever to 45. The thing is, it will be likely be one train pony, like the Dutch route with limited layers. Yeah. But the Dutch route had 2 trains, didn't it? And Acura says, if the Czech and the Portuguese routes take as much time as the Dami line does, then I'm still slightly worried, yeah. I have a feeling they won't. I have a feeling they won't take that much time. Inspector Wright, the Kumploper and the Sprinter. CD Radar says, a yellow Vectron? Is that so? Did it have a yellow Vectron? It used the red Vectron from Frankfurt Fulda, no? With the RTB capability. That still has the bug with the scoring system. ASRTO fun fact, the modeler for the CD 163 for similar now works at vector simulations. Alright. Inspector also questions the thing about the yellow Vectron. Oh yeah, sorry, Rev 1. I'm using custom livery. Yes, you have a yellow Vectron then. You have the yellow Vectron. I think I have to slow down to 25 when I drive into the siding in Totnes. Totnes, if we stop there, we have to go into the loop. If I remember this correctly. The Portuguese high-speed train is related to the Czech ones. I suspect that the Alfa Pendular is like the Pendolino. But I guess we won't see that on the Portuguese route that we're getting. So I still think the Riviera Line is one of the most beautiful routes that we got in a while. And now we are even in the more boring part. That was a flashing single yellow. Hard to see that it was flashing, I guess. Kakarot 78 hello from Texas. Hello to Texas. Nice to have you on the stream. What time is it in Texas at the moment? Can't be as late as it is here, so must be afternoon or something like that. This game is so good. That is nice to hear. 3 p.m. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this game is good. With all the flaws that it has, it is a good game. And the road we are on is a beautiful one. There's actually not really a reason to go that slowly here at this point. But the flashing yellow always somehow makes you expect something worse. Here's an TPWS overspeed loop. And here is the junction signal. Clearing from yellow to green on approach. This is probably why we had the TPWS overspeed loop here. Don't need to be at 25, but as soon as we're going across the switch, I think we need to slow down to 25 at the exit to the Totnes loop here.
We are now approaching Totnes.
It is the 25 switch, I remember correctly. If we're going in a loop, and if we have to stop at Totnes, we have to go into a loop because the lines in the middle don't have platforms, so we can't stop there. We have to slow down. On the other end, we can leave faster than 25, I think 45. And here, Aqua, I don't even need to use the DRA. Yes, I have to go up until the marker. Here, this purple one is for our nose. And here we are.
This is Totnes.
What game doesn't have its flaws or quirks, but Dovetail is still killing it, in my opinion. It's nice to hear. It's nice to hear. We have no many people always complaining about what Dovetail is doing and what are the shortcomings in this game. That we sometimes might forget a bit. how great it is in many aspects.
Welcome aboard this Great Western Railway service to London Paddington.
So, getting this cucumber rolling is sometimes a bit...
And London Paddington.
Are you asking me if there is a ZS6 equivalent in this signaling system
The next
here?
station is Newton Abbot.
A ZS6 like the Gegengleisanzeiger? I don't think so. You can only go into the Gegengleis if the signaler tells you so. To all the complainers out there, I don't see them coding and making any games. Yeah, that's probably the case. Well, to be fair, a lot of people are bringing up valid points. There are some valid points that can be brought up. And for many of them, Dovetail Games is listening, to be fair. And we had some, especially signaling fixes in the last update. I would not have expected to arrive so soon. Other things still need some fixing. And CD Radio says, which reminded me that I recently counted all Trains in World transactions on Steam and I'm already in for more than 1,000 bucks. Whoa. I'm only referring to the nitpicking and expecting perfection. Yeah, you're totally right. I totally agree. There are much too many people who just complain about everything that irks them without putting it in any context. And it really makes sense to wait for a sales inspector. It does. And there are many DLCs that I would not pick up on day one, especially since there are so many and that you have so much content from, well, if you buy the deluxe version or even the standard version of Trains in World 6, the new game, then you have so much content to play and to dig into that you can easily wait for the next sales. ASRTO, what sometimes I don't like in Trains in World is that some routes release and then got completely abandoned, with serious bugs remaining not fixed for years. Yeah, that is obviously a valid point. It sometimes takes forever. Sometimes then all out of the blue a bug is fixed that you think will never be fixed, and other things will never be tackled, apparently. With the DLC, yeah, that's a very reasonable thing to do for wait for the sales. And there are so many DLCs on the market that you can pick up in sales if you are not on the hype train and always need to have the latest thing. Then you don't have enough lifetime to invest in all the DLCs that you can pick up for little money on the sales. So with a bit of patience, you can save a lot of money and also a lot of nerves. Then you just wait for the things to happen. Sometimes they don't happen, and well, you have to live with it. And sometimes they just happen out of the blue, like the non-flashing BU signal on the Plymouth Ludwigsbahn. I never thought that they will ever fix it, and now they fixed it. The funny thing is that this fix did not even make it into the full changelog. And Akura says, even Trains in World is not perfect. I prefer spend some money on it than on the next FIFA. Yeah. Assassin's Creed and so on. It is, and you're building a collection, and what you have, you have. There are so many decent mods and expansions that you can have for free nowadays. Typically you don't have enough lifetime to use all of that. Inspectors, I have found out for me that it makes sense to focus on a specific area, so I have only installed UK content now. Cannot buy, let alone play everything. Also, that is an approach. For me, it was always like, get the DLCs that give you new signaling systems, new safety systems to dig into. Not so super important to have more routes that use the same signaling systems, more trains in different liveries. Same focus on the UK's is Aqua. And Kakarot says then I'd call it the accidental fix, yes. And sometimes they are, yeah, they are a bit on the expensive side, especially in recent years. And you can't deny that they reduced the amount of content in the DLCs over the last years significantly. Not so much in the full game. When you buy a new reincarnation of the game, then you typically get a lot of content for your money, but some DLCs that they sell in between, you really have to think whether you want to buy the 18 euros or what it is, $20 for a train that you more or less already have in a different version with a different livery. But hey, nobody is required to buy everything, and if you didn't see the value for your money, then you wait for a sale or don't buy it at all. Yeah, and if you compare the prices to the DLC prices of games like Simrail, for example, then it is sometimes hard to understand how the Simrail developers can actually pay their bills. And Kakarot, at this point, I'm just happy to have this game. Yeah, actually, you're doing it exactly as you should do it. You enjoy what you have instead of complaining what you don't. I guess this is the key to happiness. Some micro stutters. So Newton Abbot platform 3, I don't have to slow down for that, do I? Probably won't go into the loop at Newton Abbot. So I don't have to slow down to 40. Just for my stop, obviously.
are now approaching Newton Abbot.
Newton Abbot peeps.
Train to arrive at 43 for the lap 16:54. Great Western Railway service to.
This is a Great Western Railway service to.
I checked
London
whether I have to set the DRA Aqua. And since we've been a bit late, we did not have to wait so long.
Welcome aboard this great. Taunton, Castle Carey, Westbury, Pewsey, Bedwin, Newbury, Reading, and London Paddington.
Even announcing 100 Acura points,
The
this is
next
great.
station is Exeter St Davids.
Y'all want to talk about a botched game and missed opportunity? Look no further than Flight Sim 2024. I actually never tried. It looked so great. You know, the advertisements, but you heard a lot of that, yeah. Especially that it was missed opportunity. So, now we're getting closer to the seaside. Passing the racetrack to the left there. Soon enough we can accelerate to 90 for a short spell. Oh, we have a temporary speed restriction coming up. Then I cannot accelerate to 90, unfortunately. This is actually an annoying position for a temporary speed restriction. It's not the sea to the right, but it's the Tin estuary, if I'm not mistaken. But when we pass Teignmouth, After that we will actually go along the seaside. So, where is my temporary speed restriction? Should be coming up soonish. Oops, there it was around the corner and I missed it. And over already. Now get the long cucumber out of the temporary speed restriction. Now we are already getting to the point where we have to slow down from the 90 to the 80 and then from the 80 to the 60. Here's the Morpeth board for the 80. And ASRTU is trying to get his dirty mind not to think about a cucumber. Well then, good luck with that. Here's the limit to 80. Well then, we should not talk so much about cucumbers. It's a beautiful 802. We're not stopping at Teignmouth. Now we're getting the AWS magnet for the opposite direction, probably. Because I had this a couple of times. Here. This should not be here, this should be on the opposite direction. Or we should get a cancellation indicator. So, this is the Teignmouth Marina. Hitting 90 has now become a myth, yes. This temporary speed restriction destroyed my dreams of hitting the 90. But we've got another chance. When we've passed Starcross, then we can actually go accelerate 100 actually. Now we're passing Teignmouth. Leaving the estuary behind us, and now we are actually running along the seaside. British Channel. I meant to say on the other side there is France, but then on the other side there was a Voyager train. If our train wasn't so long, we could accelerate to 75. But until our train here has passed the 75 sign, we have already to start slowing down again. Seaside. What is France? Says out here. What's wrong with France now? Or actually, there is not France on the other side. There's probably, not really check, but probably the Netherlands and not France. But it depends on the angle that you actually leave. I have to check it on the map, whether you hit the Netherlands or the France or Belgium or wherever you end up, depending on what angle you leave. depending on the angle, you might actually be able to hit Denmark or German coast. But actually, I think the best chances should be France. This is Dawlish. Past Dawlish, we can accelerate to 75. But then have to prepare to slow down to 60 at Dawlish Warren again. Escape the UK to get to France. I don't know if it is worth... As someone living neither in the UK nor in France, I would say both countries are a really great place to live in. So approaching Dawlish Warren, and we will see the Ferris wheel of the carnival. And the pirate ship. So now we can accelerate to 80 at any rate. In fact, as a friend of my uncle has been robbed in London a few months ago. Of all places, he's from Rio de Janeiro. Never been robbed there. Well, it is not a nice experience. But it is actually... Yeah, well, karma, probably. Can't avoid it. Most people would be afraid to go to Rio de Janeiro because they are afraid that they might get robbed. But he did not get off at Harleston to get robbed there. That's because thieves rob foreigners and tourists because, well, they don't know. Yeah. There you might have a point. And also they have more money, he says. Especially on them, right? Not at home. At a safe place. Or in the pockets. And if you stick out as a foreigner or a tourist, you might actually be seen as an easier and more valuable target. But still super annoying. But yeah, that might be the case. This is why I always try to blend in as a tourist if possible. Yeah, same here. But it is difficult, especially if you meet people that have the eye for it. spot a tourist or foreigner. Sometimes you can't because of the language, this is true too. Well, in the outfits that I trapped around, probably nobody ever thinks that I am a valuable target to rob. They might rather put some money in my pocket so that I can buy some decent clothes. Americans are an easy target as they have a lot of money, can be identified easily, are not the most careful people. Says ASRTU. Inspector says, with a Train Symbol 6 t-shirt, everyone will assume that everything has been converted into DLCs. Juris is laughing. There might be a bug on news, but yeah, don't touch it. Kakarot, not much robberies happen here in Texas because the robber would get shot because we carry, yeah. So, now I can do my 100 miles along the X estuary, the River X. I expect a lot of people are running around without watching their environment. You should always know what is happening around you and who is there. 100. Here he comes, this Kakarot. It's... Now we have to slow down to 75 again. Those double chimneys that look like bottles are the marker behind them. You have to slow down to 75. And ASRTU says, I hide when in touristy areas. I see mainly women with the phone in their back pocket, with which someone can easily pickpocket. Yeah. Sometimes it is annoying how some people invite pickpockets to do their stuff. On the other hand, it would be a much nicer world if you can carry around your stuff in your back pocket and did not need to be afraid that someone will take opportunity and take it from you. Exeter St Thomas. And now approaching Exeter St Davids. Slow down to 40 on platform 5. We don't have to slow down anymore. Just gotta make sure that we're below the 45. And then we will probably have an approach controlled home signal. But we will see. Or not. This one is already at caution, so we can enter.
We are now approaching Exeter St Davids.
Exeter St Davids, here we come. Here's the 45 that was announced earlier. Mr. Toby's dead. I always think about how they don't damage their phones. They pick it, put them in the back pockets. So, here's our stopping marker for 8, 9 and 10 cars.
This is Exeter St Davids.
And the DRA is set.
This is a Great Western Railway service to London Paddington.
This is a great service to London Paddington. So maybe in the remaster for the Great Western Express we will get services for the 802 trains. That would be nice. Plus 100 Acura points. Thank you so much. That's it. Well, 325 points for speeding. Well, there goes my focus. At any rate, it was a nice evening. Thank you so much for bearing with me, people. Maybe I will get around to doing 1 or 2 unboxing streams during the week. Let's see how things develop. I'm happy that my GPU is working, that my stream setup is working, that my microphone is working now, and that you guys are back and active on the chat. That is beautiful. Thank you so much. Have the greatest of times. Be nice to each other and make the best out of your time on this planet. Thanks for the stream, Spectre. See you around, guys. Acura, thank you for gifting a subscription to Spectre. Great. And for 80 bits cheered. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.